Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien vs. Predator Galaxy YouTube channel and podcast. In case I release this as a separate, unedited podcast, I haven't decided yet. This is regular host Aaron Percival, and I'm joined by my fellow Sevastopol survivors.
Adam Zeller, aka Ridgetop.
Greg, also known as Still Collating.
And we are here today on on Alien Isolation's 10th anniversary. The decade that we kind of hoped, recording the news that we really hoped we would be doing today. Adam, what have we got?
We have an official announcement that a sequel to Isolation is in development by Creative Assembly and Sega, surprisingly. Yeah, I mean, we had heard rumblings of this behind the scenes, but we had no certainty about it. Um, but yeah, it's great that, and there was a Reddit leak that was saying they were going to plan something for
Well,
today.
let's read the proper statement first, and then we can have a little talk about
Okay, yeah,
the leaks and stuff after as well. So, posted by Darkness. We'll just skip straight down to the announcement. If you want to, do you want to read that one, Adam?
sure. So this is from Al Hope to our fans around the world. It's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since we embarked on our journey with the release of Alien Isolation. When we started developing Alien Isolation, we had one guiding principle: to create a truly authentic experience that went back to the roots of the Alien franchise. A new story capturing the atmosphere and terror of the original 1979 movie masterpiece. It's been nothing short of incredible to witness your passion for the game over the years and see it reach so many players around the world. On the 10th anniversary, it seems only fitting to let you know that we have heard your distress calls loud and clear. Today, I'm delighted to confirm on behalf of the team that a sequel to Alien Isolation is in early development. We look forward to sharing more details with you when we're ready. Once again, thank you. Until next time.
So, we'd kind of been expecting it slash hoping for it because there was a big Reddit leak which stated that there was a sequel in development, apparently 3 years in development. Although Al's announcement says it's in early days. But I mean, we've heard rumblings all year. Adam, is that
For
right?
Yeah, I mean, we had a report from Insider Gaming a few years back, actually, that was saying it was in the pitching phase. And then this Reddit leak was a bit more recent, and that was very specific about this being timed around the anniversary. And
I'm
then we
talking
had,
about us specifically. Haven't we heard a few bits
yeah,
this
since
year?
really, well, it was really, when was it? I think it was early this year. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
this spring. We heard some rumblings from people we talked to, but nothing was confirmed. We did not know this was coming.
But according
We've
to the
been
leak, oh, sorry, Greg, go ahead.
sorry, but yeah, we've been from all the rumors we've been kind of expecting, but honestly, I think, well, from my perspective and a lot of the fandoms, it was more of a hope in the sense of wishful thinking, since we didn't have a lot of evidence to go by, knowing how these sorts of leaks aren't, of course, always 100% reliable. And even though the relatively with the recent ones in the recent months have been uh, more on the accurate side than not, uh, still it's something that the fans have been wanting so long that there was a lot of hopefulness in wanting this to be true instead of knowing that something will certainly be announced, especially knowing that so some people thought that maybe yesterday was the anniversary, and then
Yeah.
we're
Yeah, I thought that.
yeah. So that was a bit funny that we got that one announcement with the soundtrack, which is also a great thing that officially the soundtrack will be available to buy and download. But at the same time, people were then worried. Is that all? Because um, a lot of the recent anniversaries didn't really come with super special announcements. We've been getting a lot of new media, but they are never announced on these special days, just randomly when we're least expecting. And uh, to have this big anniversary for one of the most influential Alien games was quite a special moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with what you're saying there, because in terms of like lack of announcements on important days and anniversaries and stuff like that, because how disappointed do we always end up seeming to be on Alien days at the minute, these last few years. And I can get the reticence to expecting anything, especially because like the big Disney leak where we got the Fireteam 2 stuff had no mention of an Isolation 2, did it?
No, no, it did not.
No. So I completely understand that, but it's here. It's confirmed. Details are, to say sparse would be generous. They are official details are non-existent. The Reddit leak apparently says that it's a continuation of Amanda's story that would ignore the events of Blackout. But again, that's just the rumor.
Interestingly enough, though, Blackout was recently removed from the mobile store fronts.
When you say recently,
Well, in the last, I don't know, was it late last year? Like somewhat recently.
I think it was about a year ago.
Okay.
But I mean, we'll know for sure how accurate that rumor is depending on how the rest of this day goes. Because there were two more things that were supposedly rumored: a remaster of Isolation and a VR release, which was supposed to be all announced around today at the same time. We just watched the Sega stream, kind of hoping maybe something would come of that, but no, there was no announcement on the end of there. But they did say to still keep an eye on the socials, because there was more stuff coming on the Sega and the Alien Isolation socials. It's only midday for you, Adam?
Yeah, it's just shortly after noon for me. So, yeah, I mean,
Still
we'll
time.
be keeping our eyes out for the rest of the day to see if there's any other isolation related announcements. But it's just so great to see people posting and celebrating this anniversary on social media, sharing their artwork. And Sega has been posting some official concept art that we had never
Well, it's
seen
not
before.
concept art; it's new commissions.
Oh, okay. So new artwork that they've had done. Yeah, and those are really cool. There's a really charming one with working Joes that I quite enjoyed.
I'll add that into the stream. So so far there's 3 new pieces of artwork. There's this one by Laurie Greasley, which is supposed to be inside Mike Tanaka's locker, and I think Mike Tanaka is still considered something of a deep cut when it comes to Isolation.
Yeah, you got to fill me in on the lore with that because I'm still unfamiliar about the whole Tanaka business.
Yeah, Adam didn't understand why I was so excited at the Tanaka poster in Romulus, which is, it's an Isolation shout out that very few people know about. He was a character on Sevastopol who had his own in-universe Twitter account and would post bits and pieces to Twitter before the game came out, and it wasn't massively obvious that it was anything to do with Alien up to a certain point. I can't remember the point, but yeah, he was a character. He did loads of sketches of the characters of the Alien, and there's reference in the game to him as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
there
think
is
you
a
find his
room.
body, don't you?
Exactly. And I think we need a special key code for it, if I'm remembering
It's probably
correctly.
this one here, 2931, I imagine.
Yeah, probably. But again, I don't remember the complete details, but I believe that his account was uh, done. Was it before the game was released as
It
a
was
type of
it was
marketing?
a lead up. It was a lead up marketing into the game, yeah.
Mm.
We also have this piece of artwork by Brad Wright, who was actually a concept artist and illustrator on Romulus. Like mother, like daughter, I think this one was called on Twitter.
It's really cool.
With
I love the lighting in that one.
Yeah, with Amanda and a kitty cat.
Beautifully done.
And then lastly, we have this one by another Isolation concept artist and illustrator. This is Callum Watts, I believe. Joe's of the Week.
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely
Oh, that one
genius.
has the old
Has
hair there.
yeah, the hair that never got used. Oh, I like this one. Does this belong to you?
Yeah.
What else? I like that one. You and I are going to talk about. Uh, and lastly, I'm testing my patience.
That's great.
And there was one last.
Reminds me of the genius fan edit of a kind of a music video with Working Joe lines put into it. It's so hilarious. So this reminded me of that.
That's cute. And the last one is a collab with the Lo-Fi Girl, which is Alien Isolation Lo-Fi beats. Which, I mean, I personally think it vibes more with Alien Trilogy than Isolation, but that's still a win as far as I'm concerned, because Alien Trilogy's soundtrack is slams. And did you watch that? Did you both watch that G-Man's reviews of all of the Alien?
I haven't
Well,
finished it quite yet.
most of the Alien games. Okay, have you not got to the trilogy bit yet?
Mm-mm.
No. About you, Greg, have you seen that?
I've seen it, yeah.
And he talks and compliments trilogy's soundtrack in the
Yeah.
video, and I was like, yeah, I was listening to it today actually. But no, I recommend it. It's good. It does vibe, and I enjoyed that. And
But that Lo-Fi Girl, like ambient beats, it was really cool. I do like channels like that on YouTube, and Lo-Fi Girl is definitely one of the most well-known ones out there. So it was cool to see that collab.
And that was apparently suggested by the social media person who did the Sega stream. Actually, she suggested the collab and made it happen, and she's very proud of that. And we have one last current announcement, which is Isolation soundtrack was officially released today. And we knew it was coming. I think we got the announcement on Friday. We shared it to the socials at the weekend. We didn't really have much of an announcement to go with it other than it was happening. And then they dropped this news that it's more than just a digital release.
It's funny because we had chatted about this the other day, Aaron, and you're like, "Are you getting the soundtrack?" I'm like, "It's only on streaming," and you were like, "Well, I hope there's an announcement for a physical release." And sure enough, we get some pretty awesome physical releases. Check out this vinyl here with this new artwork, and we get a peek of the vinyl itself there with that splatter design. That looks awesome. And Aaron, you were telling me this has convinced you to get a vinyl player finally.
Well, look, I want physical copies of all this stuff. And it seems to me that the only way I'm going to get them these days and actually be able to play them and listen to them is if I buy a fucking record player, because apparently we're all hipsters now and that's the way to listen to music. But whatever. The vinyls, all the vinyls that have been released look fucking awesome. And Greg, you're going to have to tell me as the musician, do they sound awesome? Have you got the vinyls?
Uh, from my family side, I did have a vinyl player, but I haven't used one in a long while. They, of course, sound fantastic, and there are special acoustic attributes that are really unique to vinyl. So it's popular for a reason. It's popular for a reason in that sense. So
Fair enough.
I am very, very glad to see vinyl releases of, again, one of the best games with one of the best soundtracks. So I'm happy to see that, and it might even tempt me to get in more in a soonish time to get some vinyl players maybe back.
And I didn't realize this, but in recent years, cassette tapes have also been making a little bit of a comeback. We've been seeing some new music releases on cassettes, and Isolation has one as well, which is very fitting given the lo-fi
cassette
tech of the game
futurism.
itself. Yeah.
I really did not fucking expect this. And when I saw it in the press release, I was like, really? And then clicked onto it. I was like, okay, I'm fucking getting that. That is genius. I love it. I think that is really vibing with the feel of Isolation. That's knowing your marketing and knowing your audience. And I think that's brilliant.
Completely. Knowing knowing how many tape recorders there were in that game, especially, that was one of the interesting criticisms, that there's even more tape there than we have actually seen in Alien, and some people thought maybe that's a bit too retro, but nonetheless, seeing something that was so heavily used in that game as a, a physical product that we can use, that we can listen to on actual cassette, alien alien media that we can listen to on a cassette is not something that I would have been expecting for
Mhm.
official releases just a few years
No,
ago. So I'm
definitely not.
astounded.
And I'll just read the press release that came out with this as well. So Hollywood Records releases Alien Isolation original video game soundtrack with music from composing duo Joe Henson and Alexis Smith, better known as The Flight, and Christian Henson, with themes by Jerry Goldsmith. The 20-track album releases in celebration of the game's 10-year anniversary both digitally and on blood green vinyl, a motion tracker green cassette featuring original packaging art by Nimit Malavia, courtesy of I Am 8-Bit. I love this. I mean, I understand this is like half of the soundtrack that sort of fans have ripped, but as I understand it, the music of the game was not complete tracks. It was built in such a way that the musical engine pieced together music from what was happening. So I imagine some work went into actually making a coherent commercial soundtrack for this. Maybe we'll hear more. Maybe they'll actually talk about it a bit more um, shortly because of the release. But I mean, I'm certainly glad to actually have an official proper release for this.
Definitely. I skimmed through the Spotify streaming version a little bit. I was kind of disappointed they didn't have the end credits song, because that's honestly one of my favorites of the game. So hopefully we'll get an expanded version at one point. But yeah, I was a bit surprised it was just 20 tracks. But like you said, Aaron, the music was not originally structured to be in kind of a soundtrack format. So I'll have to give it a listen and see how it plays throughout the whole thing. But I know that was something that fans have wanted for a long time, and just more soundtracks in general. There's still games in the franchises that have not had a soundtrack release, so it's great to see.
So we have just a question here in the comments from Christopher Bustos. Do we think the Joes would make a comeback in the sequel?
I mean,
It's
come
got
on.
to. It's got to. I mean,
Here's what I wonder though: will they be the same old, broke ass working Joes that we had in the first game, or is this going to be something like Fireteam Elite, where we're seeing the upgraded models and stuff like that?
That
but
is that is an interesting question there, because uh, from one perspective, yeah, that has become an absolutely iconic part of the game, and some people comment in some reviews of Alien Isolation that they're actually more creeped out about in reference to the droids than actually to the aliens sometimes. So, and knowing how much it has proliferated, that unique element that was brought in by Creative Assembly into the other games, in Fireteam Elite, in Dark Descent as well, and here and there in books and novels and stuff. So that it has to be there. But on the other hand, I do understand Creative Assembly. They created something new, an original company with those original working Joes. Uh, will they decide to stick with what has been very popular there, or will they try to innovate again and maybe introduce some other completely unique elements, unique faction, unique enemy types? And that's what I'm very curious about.
yeah, definitely. I mean, on the one hand, Isolation was successful for a reason. A lot of these elements that it introduced to the lore were successful for a reason. It would be fun to follow through on that because, yes, while the Joes, while Seegson have made appearances in other pieces of media, never as substantial as their introduction in Isolation. So you could kind of expect them to want to play more in this sandbox that they created. But on the flip side of that, do they want to, yes, like you say, continue to innovate? Um, only time will tell. What did Al say? More details when they're ready. So
Yeah, it does bring up a lot of questions in terms of the setting of this and what they're going to go for, because there were a number of Amanda Ripley stories in comics and in that game Blackout, and a lot of them didn't. I wouldn't say a lot of them, but I guess most of them did not really land well. So
the
you have to
comics
wonder,
especially.
yeah, you have to wonder if this is going to be something that takes place directly after Isolation, or if Amanda will have lived her life a bit more in the meantime, and this is coming back while she's a bit older. So we'll have to see, and it'll be interesting to see if Wayland Yutani plays a more prominent role in the sequel, because they were very much in the background in the original game.
Mm-hmm. Until you get in that mother module.
But even so, yeah, you find out that they've been doing some stuff behind the scenes in the game, but you really don't have any direct interaction with them as a company too much.
Yeah. So I'm
True.
I'm curious. I'm curious to see where they go with it all. And Steve Patterson here says, I wonder if it will take place on a colony rather than another space station. I would like to see them, mix that up. I wouldn't mind seeing it on a colony, on a hostile world. I think we've talked about it recently in the streams, and that's been something that's been suggested. And I would vibe with that. I think it would be good. It's a good way to keep that sensation of being alone, being pressured and threatened by your environment, but mix things up.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people with the movie Alien Romulus, they were so fascinated by that little intro bit we got of the colony, and they wanted to see more of that. So how cool would that be to just have a full game exploring a colony like that that's all dark and moody and atmospheric?
That would be lovely. Yes, yes, I would be all for that. I mean, whatever they decide with, but if it's an isolation sequel, we can expect some isolated environment, be it space station, be it a spaceship, be it a colony. But yeah, I just want to see that same level of attention to detail brought into whatever the new environments are. Just seeing them playing that sandbox again is something that I cannot put into words how excited that makes me. And also, again, we have no details about this, but uh, the most recent Alien games, and well, even Predator Hunting Grounds, if I'm correct, they've been what's categorized generally as a double A title. They've been from relatively medium-sized studios, and that has been working very well. Probably that helped with the number of games of recent, but we haven't had a triple A, how's that called? A triple A $60 title in a while.
Yeah,
So
Since
and
isolation.
yeah.
exactly. So I'm curious to see if they try at the same scale at another quote unquote triple A title to see what will that bring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope Sega, and it seems like they do. It seems like they realize that this game has gained a reputation as being one of the most well-renowned horror games of all time. You know, when they originally released it, it was right on the heels of Colonial Marines, which was a disaster for them.
It really had to fight that stigma.
Yeah. So now I think they've probably seen, like, the survival horror landscape has really grown since the original Isolation. Like, Isolation, I'm sure, had some inspiration for Resident Evil going first person with Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village. And we've had a number of huge survival horror games come out since then, with the RE remakes, the Dead Space remake, just recently Silent Hill 2 remake, a lot of remakes. But yeah, it's. I feel like it'll be a really interesting space for Creative Assembly to return to survival horror as a studio, and yeah, I can't wait to see what they do. It's interesting that Sega's back publishing again after
I
this
have
long.
I have to wonder if there was some licensing stuff specifically in there
Yeah, I would think
about
they
them
own
needing
the
to do it.
Isolation brand. So if there's a
Well,
direct, well,
they
not
can't own it because
not own it,
it's a
but
studio's thing. But there
yeah.
must have been something in there, or
Well,
maybe
I mean, do they
with it
own
being a
Creative
triple.
Assembly? I think Sega
Yes,
does.
yes,
Yeah.
they do.
So
Oh, well, there you go then. There
yeah.
you go. That's it.
Okay.
And it also means that there is the funding there through Sega for, like Greg was saying, a AAA title. Focus and Fox Interactive. That was definitely not big budget gaming. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy Fireteam Elite, and Dark Descent is really fucking good. I really love that game. But
Yeah.
this affords them an opportunity to get back to that AAA status that we had
Yeah.
in the early 2010s. So
Definitely.
Exactly. I just hope that funding wise, be it Sega or Disney, whoever is supporting the project, that now with hindsight, with 2020 vision and understanding that the horror landscape has changed, the horror game medium is a lot larger. There is an appetite for that, and maybe as for Isolation with its baggage from Colonial Marines, etc. But even through that, since there's reason to be making an Alien Isolation 2, it must have been successful enough, and Alien as a property has been doing relatively well recently, not just with the film, but as we said, multiple games, the books and everything. So I hope that there's just an understanding that over the long run, that it seems that Isolation did well, especially with the number of streamers that
there
have been
was the
playing it at extreme.
there was the news recently as well with the massive uptick in players playing it due to Romulus.
Yeah.
That made the gaming headlines. Was what was it, like 3 point something concurrent million people playing the game?
I don't know if it's quite that high, but I feel like you're right, Greg. I think even though we had those initial news stories that the game performed under Sega's expectations out of the gate, over the long run, I feel like it's probably sold well. I know it's done pretty well on
It was two.
Steam.
It was two. Sorry, it was like 1,790 concurrent players on Steam, not fucking 3 million. Jesus fucking Christ! Talk about
Yeah,
overblowing it there.
but that's still a huge number compared to even Fireteam Elite and the other multiplayer Alien games, etc., that have a lower player count in the aftermath years. So that's a huge spike. That there's interest
Yeah,
there,
like
and
300%, I think, right? Or something like that. But yeah, so I have to imagine, and we've had Feral Interactive release the game on Nintendo Switch and do the excellent mobile ports of the game. Perhaps those did really well. So I feel like, yeah, even though maybe out of the gate it wasn't the smash hit they were hoping for,
But
um,
they still sold like 2 million in its
2 or 3
lifetime at
million.
that point.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes these publishers, especially with the survival horror genre, they expect too much instant success. Like I know there's been Dead Space has come back with fantastic remake that we recorded an episode on, Aaron, and you recently played for your first time for our Genetic Memory podcast. And there's been some rumblings there that maybe that won't get a sequel because it didn't quite do the numbers they wanted to. But I'm like, guys, these games, a lot of them, it takes a while for them to really connect with people, especially of like the survival horror genre. Um, so I'm just really glad to see Sega recognize the special place that this game holds for so many gamers, so many horror aficionados, and so many Alien fans.
exactly. I hope that Creative Assembly has the opportunity to do with the game exactly what they envision. If it takes however long it takes to be made, I'm in no rush for it. I'm just super hyped that we have an official announcement, a confirmation that it is coming. However many years it's needed to be made, no problem with that. We don't want anything rushed and half baked, of course. I hope that it gets enough support, that they can do what they envision for it, and that it will be. Uh, it, I mean, the pessimist in me is talking right now, but even if it's half of what Isolation was, even if it's half of that game in terms of quality wise, uh, I'll be happy. I'll be happy. But if it's near the same quality or in some crazy case even something better or whatever, uh, that little spark of hope is certainly something that's gonna keep me excited for years to come.
I do kind of worry that maybe it is kind of set up a little bit for failure because of how highly we do regard Isolation, the OG. So I am kind of a little worried because a lot of the people who had made Isolation, that OG development team, are now at different places.
I mean,
o-
we still have
obviously,
the same director. Yeah.
yes, we do. We still have Al Hope leading the charge. But, other people have moved elsewhere. John McKellen, I think, is doing his own thing. Gary Napper's with a different company. So I don't know. We'll see. But
Well, real quick.
it's
Sorry, finish your thought, Aaron.
I was going to say it's still far too early to really know.
Yeah.
Sarah's asking, it'd be interesting to know what kind of Xenomorphs they'll use in the game. Chris is saying, or if Amanda's involved at all. Darkness has popped into the comments talking about Gary Napper, saying in the old interview we'd done with him 10 years ago now that they'd wanted to continue with Amanda in the sequel, but that's all so long ago and we all know so little. We're just kind of talking out loud with our hopes and dreams and concerns and stuff at the minute. So early days, we'll have to do what fandoms can't do very well and be patient and see what happens.
And keep
And-
those expectations in check. Yeah.
But I mean,
We don't do that.
to those,
We don't do that here.
when it comes to like living up to a horror classic, right? I mean, something that's been inspiring recently is just seeing the recent reception to the Silent Hill 2 remake. This was a smaller kind of AA studio that a lot of people didn't believe they could tackle a remake to one of the most beloved survival horror games of all time, and that is just barely releasing at the time of this recording to rave reviews, some of the highest reviews of the year. It probably will be a Game of the Year nominee. So I wouldn't count Creative Assembly out just because it's not entirely the same team. I think that if there's anyone that can pull this off, it's them. So I'm very excited to see what they do, and I would expect it would be a worthy sequel. I mean, let's hope, but but I'm definitely rooting for them.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Certainly.
And let's hope that there's some more news announced today. I'll be disappearing soon, so it's going to be on Adam to keep checking those socials for the next couple of hours.
Yep, I'll be keeping
but-
my eyes out. Maybe we'll see that remaster that's been rumored, or the VR version, or I know
Hopefully.
Sega's doing a giveaway right now for the
I've already
limited
done my
run.
bit.
Yeah.
You have one of these, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I have my. Let me grab it right here.
I really regret not buying one when they came
My
out.
little
But
Sevastopol station right here on my desk that came with the limited run set. So
I remember it being expensive though at the time. Was it like $100 or something?
yeah, something like that, but it was worth it. I mean, it came with
Well, it is
some extra
now.
goodies and stuff.
'Cause that's going to shoot up in price. That is. I really wish I'd brought that when it came out. But
It's
yeah,
a beautiful little model.
Yeah, that's the reason I got it, was for the model. Like everything else, it was like, oh, okay, but I was like, I want that Sevastopol station on my desk. So,
that's fair.
and the game is currently on sale, the original Alien Isolation. So, if for
85%
some reason
off.
you have not played it in this past 10 years, now is the perfect time to get it.
Only for today only though, so go and do it quickly.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's everything. So keep an eye out on avpgalaxy.net. Any more news that comes out will be dropping. Sega did say that more posts were coming, whether they're big announcements or just more artwork, we don't know yet. They haven't posted anything in the hour that we've been recording this other than their competition. So fingers crossed, and perhaps we'll have something to talk about again tomorrow or later tonight. We'll see. But yes, thank you everybody for listening or watching. This has been Corporal Hicks
Ridgetop.
Still collating.
signing off.